Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy Kairos. Today I want to show you the definitive Fury Warrior guide for 10.15. Now there are several builds that I want to show you guys. Now, this build right here, I see a lot of warriors running the Bloodthirst build. It is trash. It is horrible. You are a damage bot. You just don't do enough damage to score a kill unless if certain priorities are met. Are they cloth? Are they leather? No. Run this build. You do more damage, even versus plate. I see other Fury Warriors that run that stupid Bloodthirst build. They do no damage the entire game. There's no real kill potential. Now, I know I am running Cold Steel Hot Blood, and I might seem like a hypocrite, but hear me out. You get Bloodborne. It buffs your Dragon Roar damage. Makes your Odin Fury just disgusting. Now, here's the thing. Thunderous Roar does a ton of damage and they just buffed it 8%. Thunderous Roar is about, I would say, at least for me, probably about 20% of my damage, 10%. It just depends on who I hit with it. I've had it crit for over 100k with Death Wish. I've one-shot entire arena teams at 2200 MMR. This season is a little ridiculous. The season's still not really... It's a little deflated right now. So I'm only around 2k and 3s. Not that great. Just kind of been playing around with some different comps, seeing what's good. Because Warriors kind of like this weird spot where it's really good. Some comps it's like, yeah, you just hate life. But this build right here is crazy. You're going to do the most damage with this build. You don't have to run Death Wish every game. It's not recommended that you run Death Wish every game. But there's a few talents. You run into melee, you run Disarm. You run into casters, you can run Rebound, you can run Blood Rage for mobility. But basically you're locked in a Slaughterhouse and Battle Trance. Battle Trance does too much healing. Enduring Rage is really good versus, let's say, rogue comps because it does enrage you. So it'll enrage you, and with Warpaint, it's 5% less damage in PvP. Especially really good if you're sitting D stance and you get opened on by a rogue, and does have a chance to give you Recklessness. Really good. Really good versus Warlocks. You actually pump versus Warlocks. Basically, anything that's going to CC you a lot. Enduring Rage is actually really crazy. It's probably a bigger damage increase than Battle Trance. Just the 3 extra rage. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're proccing damage from basically Reckless Abandon and Unbridled Ferocity, Rampage, and Onslaught have a 20% chance to grant Recklessness for 4 seconds. It actually does pump. It actually does give you a lot of rage. But Enduring Rage is really good versus Warlocks, Hunters, all of that stuff. Mages, not so much Mages because they kite around a lot. Warlocks do kite around a lot with Demonic Circle, but I feel like you have more uptime on a Warlock versus a Mage. Basically locked into Battle Trance and Blood Rage versus Hunters. Anything like Jungle Cleave, that's basically you're locking with Slaughtering Strikes unless you're playing with a class that already has Mortal Strike, like a Windwalker Monk. And then you can kind of maybe run Death Wish a little bit, but still, it's kind of risky to play Death Wish. But if you're playing with if you're coordinating with Voice in your team, you can actually pull it off and actually get some insane one-shots. Really crazy damage, especially with your 4-set and Vicious Contempt. Now, I do recommend, so that buff for your 4-set is called Merciless Assault. So every time that you rampage, you get 1 stack, stacks up 10 times. If you just use Raging Blow, you do not want to use Bloodthirst. I have had games where I'm able to just completely kill someone by just getting 10 stacks, using my burst or one thing, getting a thing of Recklessness, and critting them for like 200k plus without cooldowns. It's actually ridiculous. Like, I have one-shot people with Bloodthirst once I get below 35%. Just something that's really gross. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, just run Spear Bastion and Piercing Verdict. Oh, hold on. No, Elysian Might. My mistake. Now that could be really good, but basically as Fury, you basically want to burst out the gates to get as many Odin's Furies out as possible. So this is the build that's doing the most damage, as far as I see it. Then you have what most warriors are running, it seems, which is basically the Bloodthirst build. Now they will run Onslaught and Tenderize. Now I do have this kind of binded to Slam. This build you can run Slam, so basically instead of running Slam you could go into it, and Onslaught does hit very, very hard. It hits upwards of 100k, but so does Slam. You don't generate the same amount of rage, but you're generating so much rage anyway that it's kind of like, yeah, the Onslaught's good with this build, but then again, it's not really that great, if that makes sense. It's more like really good into things that are squishy or warlocks, and it gives you more survivability with Bloodthirst. This is kind of what I've found out with the Cleave build. Now this build is kind of weird, in my opinion. You lose Vicious Contempt. Now you could do something like this where you do have Vicious Contempt a little bit and go down and run into the same thing and drop this because you're already going to be enraged basically, I feel like. Same thing as before. I don't feel like this build does enough damage. Now we do have this build, which is basically the Burst Cleave build. Now you do lose Vicious Contempt, which is not really that great just because of where everything falls into wanting to cleave as much as possible with everything. Now I could see Wrath and Fury being dropped, but that 30% chance to instantly reset its own cooldown is just so good in your 4 set. Even without Vicious Contempt can actually hit like a train. So I feel like if you run this build, run it into Cleaves, run it into Hunters. Not so much, pretty much just BM Hunter, because you can kill all their pets with this. And they just buffed Meat Cleaver, or improved Whirlwind, so it was 50% of your damage, and now it's 55. I think in PvP, I'm not sure. But basically, those are kind of the builds. Now, to burst with this build, now there is kind of one way that I've been bursting, which it is kind of ridiculous. So basically, I try to save charge as much as I can as a warrior. So basically, I'll mount up, run up to the target. Basically, you open up with all your cooldowns, Rampage, Onslaught, Rampage again, and just roll your damage out, get up to 12 stacks as quickly as possible. And just, this is basically your whole rotation is this. Onslaught when you can, Rampage off cooldown, or when you have the rage rather. It's all about just rampaging as much as possible. And once they're low, you got 10 stacks or even 5 stacks, you wanna Bloodthirst. As you can see, 300k with no cooldowns. And that's with Vicious Contempt. So even in PvP, that's like, what, 200k if it crits? More, 220. I've had it hit with Death Wish. I've had it hit upwards of 500k in arena. It's actually kind of ridiculous. And that's like maybe 2 stacks. So there you guys go. There's the Fury Guide. I will put macros in the description for you guys, and macros to help you with bursting. The builds that I would recommend as far as cleaving, I'll put them all down for you. I even have a one-hand build that you guys can play around with. I don't think it's that good, but you guys can kind of understand where my thought process is. You have 2 one-handers, you proc a ton of executes. Not really that good. You don't really run bleeds. It doesn't feel that great. But anyway, you guys have a good one. But this is the definitive guide for Fury Warrior in Season 2 of Dragonflight, and you guys have a good one.